With his impending return to the White House, the president-elect gathers his allies. How Donald Trump is filling his cabinet.
And take a look at current temperatures right now. You're noticing that we have some 80s and 90s in there. I'm going to tell you how warm it'll be coming up.
Texas versus the White House. Attorney General Ken Paxton files his 100th lawsuit against the Biden administration today. The target of his latest action just ahead. Well, just over 2 months before Inauguration Day, President-elect Donald Trump is starting to fill out his cabinet. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jennifer Sanders.
And I'm Will Dupree, in tonight for Daniel Marine. Trump is naming his former Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director to oversee border control and the president-elect's campaign promise of mass deportation of migrants. NBC's Alice Barr is in Washington tonight with the latest on the transition to a second Trump term.
More consequential appointments in a big week for the Trump transition team. The president-elect putting Tom Homan, his former acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, in charge of the nation's borders.
Every morning I get up. Every morning I'm pissed off about what this administration did to the most secure border in my lifetime. So I'm going to go back and do what I can to fix it.
President-elect Trump saying Homan will lead, quote, all deportation of illegal aliens back to their country of origin. Homan was a supporter of the controversial policy that separated migrant families during the first Trump term. Asked about that recently on CBS's 60 Minutes.
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Democrats pushing back.
This is a guy with a cowboy attitude that constantly dehumanizes people who are simply seeking a better life in the United States.
Immigration hardliner and first Trump term veteran Stephen Miller also in line for Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, according to a source close to the transition. The president-elect tapping Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik for U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, the staunch defender of Israel who's been outspoken about anti-Semitism on college campuses, will fill a key role at a pivotal time for the war in Gaza. Critics concerned that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's close relationship with President-elect Trump could embolden him into further escalation. President-elect Trump will meet with President Biden at the White House on Wednesday, with 2 months to go until he takes office. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And taking a closer look now at Stephen Miller, who is expected to be named Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Miller is one of Trump's longest-serving aides, serving as a speechwriter and senior advisor in his first term and playing a key role in immigration policy decisions. After leaving the White House, Miller ran a group called America First Legal alongside Mark Meadows, Trump's former chief of staff. The organization formally backed Project 2025, even as Trump sought to distance himself from it. Trump hasn't officially announced Miller's role, but Vice President-elect J.D. Vance seemingly confirmed the choice in a post on X, saying, quote, this is another fantastic pick by the president.
And we're going in depth now on what's changing after Trump's election. His Mar-a-Lago home in Florida is stepping up security, including the use of robotic guard dogs. According to a Secret Service official, these high-tech hounds can be outfitted with thermal cameras and technology for detecting bomb and chemical threats. This ramp-up in security also coincides with an Iranian murder-for-hire plot against the former president that put 3 people behind bars.
First warning weather with meteorologist Freddie Vela.
Today, a hot day outside. Temperature is hitting 84 degrees, 10 degrees above where we should be, which is around 73 degrees. We didn't quite reach the record, but you notice we got pretty close. Record was actually 87 degrees for the day itself. And we had clear skies to thank for our temperatures heading back up into the mid-80s one more time. You zoom out a bit more for the rest of the state. The only cloud coverage we're seeing is along the Panhandle, getting out towards New Mexico. Other than that, the rest of the state of Texas just as clear as we are. A live look at our 360 cam Westlake, sponsored by Lorenz and Lorenz. Clear skies out there. When you get farther out towards the hill country, little wisps of clouds, but you'll notice temperatures at this point still at about 81 degrees in Austin, 80 degrees in Dripping Springs, 81 as you reach out towards Fredericksburg. But the rest of the day today still looking like it's going to continue to stay warm, at least for the next couple of hours before we start to cool down. By 10 p.m. we're down to about 64 degrees, and by 1 a.m. we should be at about 60 degrees. So what are we watching? Well, those above normal temperatures, they're sticking around for a couple of days. We do have a couple of fronts on the way, and we are watching the tropics because there is a new development out there. We'll have all of this and so much more coming up in your first warning weather.
All right, Freddie, thank you so much. On a day where we celebrate those who risk their lives for the country, people across Central Texas gathered in Austin for the city's 69th annual Veterans Day Parade. Our photojournalist Frank Martinez takes us there.
My name is Don Graves, 99. Yep, I'll be 100 May 3rd. Scares me.
We get to honor the veterans that served our country and also support my grandpa for all that he's done for us and my family and for this country.
I've done this parade 4 times now. I take a lot of pride in it because of my father's military service along with my mother's. So it's just a good feeling to be a part of something bigger than myself.
God bless America, the land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Round of applause for Don Graves there. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton reached a milestone. He officially filed his 100th lawsuit against the Biden administration. His newest suit seeks to block a new rule from the Federal Communications Commission. In September, the FCC put a limit on how much a prison or a jail can charge per minute for inmate phone calls and video calls. Paxton claims this puts an unfair burden on taxpayers by forcing them to shoulder increased costs for these calls and violates the Administrative Procedures Act. That law governs how federal agencies issue internal regulations. The states of Mississippi and Louisiana, as well as several sheriffs, joined in that suit. Paxton filed his first suit against the Biden administration just days after the president took office in January 2021. It was an attempt to block a 100-day pause on certain deportations. A federal judge did end up blocking that deportation pause.
In just a few weeks, H-E-B is opening its new multi-level storefront in the South Congress neighborhood. The store will open December 4th near the intersection of South Congress and West Oldtorf Street. You'll see indoor and outdoor dining areas on the ground floor and 3 levels of above-ground parking for customers. Shoppers will see local installations that celebrate the South Congress area's art and cultural history. This 145,000 square foot store replaces the grocery giant's longest standing location, and that first opened back in 1957. That store was demolished about 3 years ago. Since then, H-E-B operated out of a temporary space across the street at the Twin Oaks Shopping Center. Digital reporter Kelsey Thompson has more details on the opening on our website at KXAN.com.
Excited for that to finally open. There are expanded options now for taking a bus around Texas. Cap Metro is partnering with a company called FlixBus. The intercity bus provider will operate out of the South Congress Transit Center. FlixBus's services connect to nearly 50 destinations from Austin, including Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. This partnership comes after another intercity bus system, Megabus, closed its operations here in Texas back in August.
Our 8 to 14 day outlook showing that we could reach back to normal conditions once again. I'll break that down for you and how cool it'll be after a few fronts arrive in your first warning weather after the break.
Ukraine launched its largest drone attack on the Russian capital city of Moscow since the full-scale war began back in 2022.
Officials said that incident injured one person and forced 3 major airports to divert flights for a time. That launch comes as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Sunday that Russia launched a record number of drone attacks against Ukraine on Saturday night. Officials said at least 2 people were injured and buildings were damaged as Russia launched that overnight attack on the southern region of Odessa. Russia and Ukraine have both turned cheap commercial drones into deadly weapons, ramping up their own production while also seeking new ways to destroy them. Going in depth now, we did have some special visitors here at the KXAN studio today. Our morning anchor Tom Miller talked with some Ukrainian journalists through an interpreter about how the war has changed their work.
What are some of the differences you've noticed in how journalists work here in the U.S. and how journalists work in Ukraine?
Oh, great question. Unfortunately, due to war and the lack of revenues and the drop down of the commercial market, we are more based on donor support currently. What we can see here is that people and the workers of the newsrooms, they do not need to worry about thinking about financial support, just kind of doing their work for the best of their knowledge and enjoying it fully, while in our case, all our employees have this in the back of the mind.
Your country has been in a full-scale war with Russia for several years now. How has that changed what you do?
Everything. Maybe you then.
Okay. We
had to recalibrate from being the ads-driven media to donor support funds, which also put a heavy workload increase, and we're working 24/7. And this is based on the fact that Russia attacks our cities daily, and we never know when the next rocket comes. For example, this one.
What do you think American journalists could learn from Ukrainian journalists?
В першу чергу, we would really like not to teach you this, but we can teach you that to be more stress resilient. And it is very important to understand that, for example, trivial things like not having coffee somewhere, it's not a problem. It's not a big deal. The problem is that when my friend, for example, calls me at 3 a.m. today and he is asking if I can help him as a reporter to find out whether there are people alive in the buildings that had been shelled by Russia. And we hope that you will not need this experience.
Thank you both for taking the time to talk with us.
Certainly an interesting exchange of perspectives for us journalists.
Such a different working environment for them too.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so fall said, I'm here, but we just see sunshine and are feeling those warm temps.
It feels like fall decided to go on vacation.
Yeah, it does. It does.
That's essentially what it did. Take a look at our satellite and radar at this point. Clear skies continuing throughout the evening tonight. There were a few clouds out towards Fredericksburg, but as of this point, nothing that would make any big changes. I wouldn't call it partly cloudy. I wouldn't even call it mostly sunny. I would just say it's sunny outside at this point, but the sun is now going down, so that is the good news. Our temperatures are expected to drop back down into the 50s for tonight. Currently, we're still sitting at about 81 degrees in Fredericksburg, 80 degrees in Dripping Springs, 81 in Austin, 84 degrees in Bastrop, 81 in Giddings, and 82 degrees down in Lockhart. I'm going to start the clock right now at 5 p.m. and allow this to play out. Again, we don't see any big changes overnight tonight. What we will see is early in the morning as we start to get to about 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and even up to 10:30 in the morning, you're noticing some cloudier conditions starting to pick up within the hill country mostly compared to the metro and the eastern counties remaining mostly clear. And then we get some of that daytime heating. By the time we get to 3:30 in the afternoon tomorrow, most of that should be gone and we'll be left with clear skies. We do have a low and a front that are going to push through. That should bring us a bit of relief as we get Wednesday into Thursday, and then another front later on. But it's that secondary one that will give us that chance of rain just ahead of it. You'll notice that first one from Wednesday into Thursday, no real big change there. So let's play this out. We'll start the clock on Wednesday at 8 a.m. Clouds that'll start to build up right ahead of that, and that's the most cloud coverage we'll get. because by the time we get to about 3 p.m., 4 p.m., the front has come in clearer behind it compared to what's in front of it. Most of the rain will be far away from us. And like I said, we'll just be left with clear skies. As we get into Friday, Saturday, clouds will start to build up one more time. Here comes that next front. And then this is the change I was talking about. Sunday into Monday is our next best chance of even seeing any type of rain whatsoever. And that's only a 10% chance overall. And then that front will fly through. So going back to that first front, how is it going to be affecting you? Well, by the time we get to Thursday night, things will be nice. They'll be clear, as you can tell. Kickoff, halftime, fourth quarter, clear skies. Temperatures down into the 50s by the time we get to the fourth quarter. 58 degrees. And this, of course, which is Lexington versus Rice Consolidated, you'll be able to watch live on KBVO. Here's a look at your weekend weather as well. After that first front comes through, we'll be back up to 87 degrees by the time we get to Sunday. But Monday, you'll see that change. So Tuesday, Wednesday, 80s, Thursday, 70s continues as we start to warm up, get out towards Sunday, as I mentioned, 87. But that front comes in, dropping down to 83 degrees by Monday afternoon.
Tonight on News Nation, he's the man who predicted the last 10 presidential races successfully before missing the mark with VP Harris. Alan Lichtman joins Cuomo. Hear in his own words how he got it wrong. Tonight at 8/7 Central on News Nation. To find News Nation, go to joinnn.com.
Tonight we have the story of a woman's half-century journey to learn her father's fate after his plane disappeared over Vietnam. And we speak to USA gymnast Jordan Chiles, still fighting for recognition after she was stripped of an Olympic medal tonight.
Authorities along the Texas border are bracing for a potential surge in migrants after Donald Trump's re-election. News Nation's Jorge Ventura reports.
I'm here on the Eagle Pass border, and right behind us is the Rio Grande, one of the deadliest crossing points throughout the southern border. Now, Border Patrol agents and Texas DPS are already seeing a spike in migrant counters, but also a growing number of unaccompanied children traveling alone. Just this past weekend, Texas DPS encountered a group of over 100 migrants that included 13 children, some young as 7 years old. These children often rely on strangers to guide them through cartel-controlled areas, adding extreme risk to their already dangerous journey. Texas DPS reports a surge in unaccompanied minors, with over 100 children arriving alone in the first half of October. Many marked with colored wristbands by cartels, signaling payment for crossing through dangerous areas. When these children encounter authorities, they often have a note with them with a sponsor address. Recently, a group of unaccompanied minors was found with addresses to sponsors in states like New York, California, Colorado, and Florida. And as of November 1st, the Department of Health and Human Services is caring for over 6,000 unaccompanied children, working to reduce that average stay to just 34 days while prioritizing their safety. As more children cross alone, the surge is already a reality here in Eagle Pass, even before the election results were known. Now authorities are preparing for what could be even a bigger influx as January's inauguration approaches. Now, authorities say they're getting ready for any possible scenarios with anticipated surge before January's inauguration. Texas has now ramped up security under Operation Lone Star. In Brownsville and El Paso, National Guard soldiers alongside local law enforcement are running intense battle-ready drills. Captain Daniel Mannon of Task Force East says these exercises keep teams prepared for swift, coordinated action if these larger groups do arrive. In Eagle Pass, where I am, National Guard soldiers from Texas and Louisiana are mortifying key sections with razor wire, expanding that border wall in Cameron and Maverick County. Officials believe these measures could help manage that surge, but say they will remain on high alert until January.
Jorge Ventura with News Nation there. Here's a look at what's coming up tonight on KXAN. First, it's the Knockouts premiere on The Voice at 7, followed by a new episode of Brilliant Minds at 9. And join us back here for KXAN News at 10.
And of course, you can join us an hour earlier for KXAN News at 9 on the CW Austin. Here's where to find us.